Okay, we'll just give. I'll try to give a 4 or 5 minute update as to where we are with all this COVID stuff. First of all, we've been successful in writing a few grants led by Andrew, Dr. Cade, and Bishop Morgan. We received Community Foundation. I think they gave us about $15,000 to do community work, and we're still waiting on a state grant for about $50,000. They told us we were successful, but we haven't been notified as of yet. So until I have the bird in the hand, it's worth more than two in the bushes. So I'm pretty successful. So we're going to be able to carry out some missions, and what we have through another grant, we have about 10 street workers on the street now, and Brother Desi Jackson is the lead person with that, and they've been able to go out door to door, business to business, to barbershop, beauticians, restaurants, and houses, and try to give folks give them a card so they can get the vaccines. So that's been pretty successful. We have 8 people on the ground, plus that's 9, and they're out every single day for about 4 or 5 hours. So that mission is going on in Mason Square, the North End, and Bishop Talbot Swan is doing the same thing on his side of the town. So hopefully, as we crank this situation up, because right now it's I call it hand-to-hand combat. It's like when you're in a war and you carpet bomb. So we've carpet bombed all folks who are very interested in getting the vaccine. Now, troops have to go house to house to see exactly what's going on. So that's where we are. We're a hand-to-hand, street to street, person to person, barbershop to barbershop, church to church kind of situation. And with that being said, there's a couple of initiatives that we're gonna try to do. We know that right now with the Pfizer vaccine, any youth from 12 to 16, 15 can get the vaccine. So we're gonna have a youth day at some point in time. They did that at the Reggie Lewis Center in Boston on Saturday.
Yes, they did.
They had a youth day. Parents were involved. They had DJs. They had youth ambassadors. They did about 400 or 500 young people. And so we're going to have to almost emulate what they did in Boston here. A couple of other situations we're doing. We are the Springfield Black COVID Coalition. I want to thank all of you, especially Dr. Webley, what we have done. If this coalition was not on the ground and had not been advocating for folks, Black and brown people in this community, I don't know where we would be. Because of this coalition, our numbers are up. Directly associated with this coalition and working with Commissioner Colton. And, we have, Dr. Webb, we have a site, H&M site they call on 461 Bay Street. They're open every day from 10 to 4. J.C. Williams Church Community Center, which will be starting tomorrow on the other side of town from 9 until 1. And I just want to thank this coalition from the work you've done from the very beginning and you continue to do, because it has made a difference. You have saved lives. And I was talking to, from my estimation, this pandemic is not over, and we're jumping up and shouting hallelujah like it is, and it really isn't. And certainly I talked to both undertakers last week at Henderson and Harrell. There's still 15, 20 people in the funeral home. So this thing it's still devastating to Black people. We don't see it. We don't talk about it much, but it's real. So we're going to continue to be vigilant. Now, the good fun stuff, we're doing, we all know the Brethren, they do the Juneteenth celebration. Every Juneteenth, we do a celebration for the last 10 years. We're going to have a community fest at the Ray Jordan Center. The theme is to see if we can get 500 people to get vaccinated. They're going to have food, entertainment. Some should have had the flyer already. Food, entertainment. and it's going to be done virtually, not virtually, with a drive-through. It's going to be in-person drive-through. So the setup is, I think, is if Andrew Cade is not, he can go a little further into it. But the object is to get 500 people vaccinated. And everything we do now has to be tied in to making sure we're trying to get people vaccinated or tested, one or the other. You know, we were doing 150, 200 shots over at H&M Center every single day. We're not doing that anymore. Those who have wanted to get their shots have gotten their shots. So now it's a hand-to-hand combat, almost not convincing people, but giving them information they can make the tough decisions. Also on that Juneteenth day, we're honoring two individuals. Two individuals have certainly made a difference in this community. Commissioner Helen Culp will be receiving an honor from the Brethren. And our own, we've adopted him, Wilmore Webley will be getting another award from the Brethren's Foundation for the community, great community work you've done through this pandemic. It was just our honor to put your name in the nomination. They voted you unanimously. So just congratulations. I don't want to
thank you
sprint on you like that. I don't want you to just hear about it in the street. There's a nice flyer out. I'll get the flyer to you. Is Dr. Andrew, is Dr. Cade on the air?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I don't see him.
Nah, okay.
Thank you.
So
thank you so much, Representative Williams. It's been a joy working with you, and I've always said, if I can help one person understand this vaccine and get vaccinated, I would feel good. But knowing how many people you've worked so hard to get vaccinated, it warms my heart, and so I'm happy to just be a little part of this. Overall, it's been a great effort on your part.
And the other thing, I'll tell you that because I remember talking to Bishop Morgan, and we were talking, and some folks didn't want to get this vaccine. In fact, they didn't want the shot. They didn't want Pfizer. No, they went for Johnson & Johnson or something. And I think Bishop Morgan was talking to someone, one lady, couple ladies, and they saw the presentation that we did on air.
Yeah.
And that convinced them or gave them enough information. They came out and said, we're going to take the shot. And Bishop Morgan can talk to that.
Yeah.
So that the other thing is that on Father's Day, the Springfield Black COVID Coalition, we will be hosting a father and son walk from Putnam High School down to Adams Playground to have a little celebration. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into it. But that's my report. So we got a lot going on. We got to get the Facebook going. We got to get the Twitter going. We got to start messaging young people. We have some resources to get the job done now. I think the challenge before was the resources to make it happen. But we have resources. We're going to do the best we can do to continue to talk to our people, because as I talked to Dr. Webley and Lamont Scott, thank you. But Dr. Webley will tell you the virus is not over. The pandemic is not over. So, Bishop, thank you for your and thank you for your leadership. Bishop Moore, I want to thank you for taking the challenge and doing what you have done, bringing a moral leadership with us and guiding us spiritually. And we always thought it was important to have the Lord incorporated in whatever we were doing. So I just want to thank. I know it's a sacrifice. You're a minister, you're a father, you're a teacher. You got a lot going for you, but you found the time to give back to the community. And we really want to thank you. And everybody else who is on here, thank all of you. You have really made a difference. We're going to continue to fight to save lives of our people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Representative Williams. I am just elated and excited that we are here, excited to see all of you. And I just saw our Commissioner, Helen Calton Harris, come on the line. It is great to see her. And I would just ask at this time if you could
give us an overview, especially when it comes down to masks. There seems to be quite a bit of confusion once again. So, you know, we seem to get information, and there seems to be a confusion that happens. And one of the things is that when we talked about doing this, we gave us our charge, and we talked about that we were going to make sure we did education and outreach, and especially in support of what you are doing. I cannot, you know, I don't know what other cities are doing, but we have a stellar leader in the form of our health commissioner. And everywhere I go, other ministers that I talk to in other communities across the country, I speak highly the praises of our commissioner. So I was just asking if you would please address us at this time. You're on mute.
Well, let me first of all start with thanking you, Reverend Morgan, for your work as well, and everything that you've done for the community. You are also a stellar leader, and everywhere I go, people talk about the faith community in the city of Springfield and how we have had an effort where we have worked together. So thank you to State Representative Bud L. Williams, who is doing a stellar job in organizing our community. I just want to also recognize State Representative Williams for all that you do for the community. Oftentimes, you know, praise may be limited, and questions often drill down in places that don't necessarily help anyone move forward, and you have stood above all, so thank you. So for the city of Springfield, let me just simply give a very brief update. I think everyone knows that the city went from red to yellow last week, but we're barely yellow. We are 3.85 positivity rate. To be red, you're 4.0 positivity rate. So we're just on the borderline of being red, but we are yellow. Last week was good for us. We had 154 cases. We were down again, 111 cases. And so that's the good news, is we had 154 cases last week. This week, we started Sunday with 50 cases, which is one cases that we had all of last week. So starting out this week, which is Sunday, there was some concern, particularly on my part, that our numbers are going to start to trend up again. So but on Monday, our cases came down to 20, and then today they are 18. So we are back in the low side as far as our cases in the city of concern. If it keeps that way all week, then we will certainly be on track to maintain our yellow, which we are looking to do. You all know that the governor has changed the guidance. You may have talked about this already. So May 29th, some of the restrictions around face coverings are going to be lifted. Those restrictions are lifted in most places, but are not lifted in long-term care facilities, close congregations. There are places, if you are gathered closely, where you should wear a face covering. I talk about it as an individual decision. It is an individual's decision whether to wear a face covering or not, and no one should be shunned for wanting to keep one on. This virus continues to circulate, and this virus is the community spread in the city of Springfield still is there. So I would encourage people who have underlying health conditions, people who have immune compromised conditions, people who understand their comorbidities, please consider whether you want to keep on your face covering. It is recommended that individuals be careful around removing their face coverings. We did a press conference yesterday with the mayor, and everybody took their face covering off at the podium except me, because I was not comfortable that we were in a place where I felt comfortable that I was around individuals who were not vaccinated. So if you're with a vaccinated individual, certainly The restrictions have been lifted if you're fully vaccinated, I should say. However, when I'm in an environment where I'm with people that I don't know whether or not they've been vaccinated, I'm going to keep my face covering on because I think it's certainly important. So the restrictions have been lifted. June 15th, the governor lifts all restrictions. And so the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will have no restrictions based on the guidance that I'm reading. So June 15th, all restrictions in the Commonwealth will be lifted for the most part. There still will be some exceptions, particularly from individuals who are immune compromised, but everything will be lifted at that point. The basketball hoops started going up yesterday. So we are in the process of putting up the basketball hoops. There will be signage in the basketball hoop areas in the court somewhere that still talks about COVID restrictions and talks about wash your distance, wash your face, and wear a mask. We are still going to keep on there at this point, even though the mask restrictions have been relaxed. Amateur sports for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is also, they're saying no masks are necessary for individuals who are doing amateur sports, including our school children. What we'll be doing in the city of Springfield, we will still be recommending testing for our students before they start the sport, in the middle of the sport, and as they come out of the sport. So while we will abide by DESI's recommendation, we will still keep some restrictions in place for our student athletes. As far as next week, we will be immunizing our children in Springfield Public Schools, ages 12 to 16. We will be doing it in the gyms at all of the high schools. We are also encouraging parents at that point to come and get vaccinated as well. So we don't only want to vaccinate the child, but we want to vaccinate the family if they're willing to take the vaccination at that point. So that vaccination I expect will happen next week. We're partnering with Curative. Curative's guidance right now says that a parent has to be with the adult, with the child, in order to get vaccinated. So that is not the Massachusetts guidance. Massachusetts is saying as long as you have a consent, you can be vaccinated without a parent on site. So we have some reconciling to do around that language, and we're working with our legal departments to do that. What else can I tell you? We're still vaccinating at Ray Jordan Center. Curative is doing J.C. Williams tomorrow from 9 to 1. We're still doing Thursday morning at Ray Jordan Center, Friday at Greenleaf and the Greek Cultural Center, and Saturday at Bowling School. This Saturday, as you know, Pastor, we will be doing the second doses for the faith community at St. John's Congregational Church. We'll start that at 9, hopefully conclude that at 1. There is, really confusion about face coverings, and I certainly understand that, but face coverings or masks need to be an individual decision based on what you know about your health status and those individuals in your environment and whether they are vaccinated or not. We continue to make sure we are asking people to be vaccinated. I had a call this morning with the State Department of Public Health, and what they know is that the vaccination rates are plummeting in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we're shifting our strategy to smaller venues. Today at Ray Jordan Center, we'll probably only do about 50, but 50 is obviously better than 0. So we are shifting our strategy to go into the congregate housing settings, as well as the places, the housing authority buildings and other places where people are. So our strategy now is we need to take the vaccination clinics to the community in a deeper way, so that no longer can we ask folks to come to us, we're going to individuals. So the city is vaccinating individuals in businesses, anyone who calls us to say they have over 10 people that want to be vaccinated, then we're going to go there and do that. And our mobile sites are continuing to be up and running. Lastly, Bay State has called and asked if there are areas of the city where I'd like them to stand up their mobile sites, and their mobile sites is a real mobile clinic van. And so they are going to go to Indian Orchard. They're going to go to Pine Point. If you think of places that you want them to go, they're open to doing that as well. I'll stop there, but thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for being a comfort, Pastor Morgan, to my family in the loss of Henry Denson. My family is very appreciative, and I know he was a longtime member of your church, but also the attention that you paid to the family is so greatly appreciated. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner Carlton Harris. Thank you. And thank you for giving us all of the updates regarding what is going on with the city. I know the information is available, but I just appreciate the fact that you come on and join in with us and you give us these updates. It just, for me, it makes it quite special to myself, and I would like to thank to all of us. So thank you so much for all of your hard work, all of your hard work. You know, there are so many unsung heroes in our city, and I don't have time to go into it now, but everybody that's on the call, I just want to thank you for hanging in with us. Our work is not done because the virus is still at large. We are still in a pandemic, as our commissioner said, and I do not want us to lose sight of that. I do, per my last email, I do look at this as the fact that we are at war. And I love what our commissioner said, and I'm in total agreement with that. We need to take the clinics to the community. We need to take this. We've asked people to come to us. Now we have to go to them and arm them with the necessary information and the outreach to be able to help them make the decisions to get vaccinated. I will tell you this, and then Dr. Webley is here. We have invited him to come and to talk to us a little bit, especially because we're going into the next phase next week in regards to vaccinating our children, et cetera. And so we're so glad to have him here. But I just want to say this, that as I was trying to get people to get signed up for VaxForce, I came across some of the strangest responses. One of the strangest responses was that a young lady said that, well, I've already been vaccinated. I mean, no, she said, I've already had the virus. But my response was, that doesn't mean you can't get it again. We really want you to get vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. We've had, and I'm fine. I've had no strange reactions. Unfortunately, it was a hard sell, and she was not on my list. But I'm hoping and praying, as we continue to give her information, that she will get on the list and get her children vaccinated that are of age as well. I do think that this is important, and I do think that it is something that we need to be about. And I just wanted to give you all that, tell you all that story to let you know that there are still some things that are being perpetuated. There are still some myths that are being perpetuated within our community. And as we've always said, we're never trying to force anybody to do anything, but we do want to arm people with necessary information so that they can make informed decisions about their health. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm so grateful for Lamont Scott, who has been so instrumental in getting in contact with Dr. Webley and putting him on our radar. And so I'm going to just ask him to just introduce Dr. Webley, and for Dr. Webley to address. Yes.
Just before, did you, I apologize, did we tell them about Saturday? You supposed to mention that.
Oh no, we didn't. I'm sorry, that was going to be my original segue. My original segue was going to be in regards to Saturday. We are going to do a mask giveaway. I still believe that masks are important, and I will be one individual that will continue to wear my mask especially in close public spaces. I am fully vaccinated, but I continue to do it just because until this whole thing is over, I just think it's the right thing to do. And I feel more comfortable when I do it. So we are doing another mask giveaway. We've got some other things included in that, don't we? People will be receiving cards to be able to get vaccinated.
Exactly. They can get a card to go to the J.C. Williams site or to go to the H&M site, which is on Bay Street. Hand sanitizers, and we're going to have some raffles. KLS, we want to keep him in prayer. He lost his dad to Henry Denson, but KLS will be doing the music on Saturday. We're going to make it a little festive, give some raffles out, give some free prizes and stuff. And, and then we're going to be doing other stuff like that with prizes and raffles and make it interesting. And in Chicago and Illinois, they have a $1 million raffle. If you take the shot, you take and put your name in the hat, so to speak. And at the end of that, they're going to pull the name out, and whoever name comes out will get $1 million. They're incentivizing people to take the vaccine, basically. So Saturday, I think what time is 11, 12 to 2?
12 to 2. Yeah.
The Panache banquet that Panache will usually go. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Scott?
I'm here working as usual. Yes. Hello to everyone, and I'm proud and I'm pleasure to introduce Dr. Welby. He's been very instrumental. He's been a blessing to come to our team. And without further ado, I'd like for him to put everything in his hands, because I know there are still questions which I'm typing now that I would love to get answered as we move forward. Thank you again for everything and all your time that you utilize for us, Dr. Welby. Thank you again so much, Lamont, from me and from Mocha, and from everyone in Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lamont. Thank you to all of you for making me a part of this great effort that you've undertaken. It was really visionary for Representative Williams, for you, Reverend, and for all of you to come together and in this time working along with our health director, Ellen Colton Harris, and just forming this coalition so that, number one, people could be informed. One of the challenges, and as an educator, I can tell you that this is real. One of the challenges in our communities of color is getting people the right information. The wrong information seems to spread so fast, and getting the right information always feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill. But because of how quickly this group got out ahead of it, I think you were able to get people vaccinated before even some of the more recent anti-vax stuff started coming down, which has been really, really strong in the push at this time. I want to update you on a few things. The first one is, I don't know if somebody can make me co-host. If you make me co-host, I can show you a few slides, not a presentation, just show you a few slides. Because they have come out with what is the true death toll right now for COVID-19. I don't know if you've followed it to see that. But it turns out that when they look at excess deaths worldwide during the pandemic, that excess death is between 7 to 13 million. In other words, what they're saying right now is we're averaging about 10 million people have actually died from COVID instead of the 3-point-something million that we have in the numbers. And this is important, you know, because so many people, especially in poorer communities, have died from this virus and it hasn't been recorded. So this virus has been way more deadly than we think. So the other thing, so no, I don't have sharing privileges. I'm still me if you give me a co-host, but if not, that's fine. The other thing
Is Steve still there? Is Steve still? Can Steve co-host?
Yep, hang on. We'll get him. Stand by.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
And the floor is all yours until like 4:55, 4:56 when we run the broadcast. Hang on.
Nice.
The other thing that I wanted to point out was long COVID. We talked a little bit about this before. And the issue, thank you. The issue that we have is a lot of people think about COVID in this binary way. So I'm going to share a couple of things here. Let me show you. It's over. I'll do that again. It didn't want me to slide over.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So what you're seeing there is that excess deaths slide that I talked about, right? And it truly is remarkable when you look at it, because the numbers are way more than we think, and in different places of the world, you can see the difference there. Hopefully, you're seeing the slides fully. So that excess death suggests that in all of our communities, COVID has caused way more death and destruction than we ever imagined. So that's the first thing. The next thing I wanted to point out is this: long COVID. We think about COVID in a binary way. You either live or you die. Well, there's this thing called morbidity. Morbidity are those symptoms, those sequelae that could continue for either a short time or a long time. Right now, there are people who have had long COVID for 6 months and going. And what are those? Those are people who still feel fatigued, although they're testing negative for the virus. Those are people who still have headaches. Those are people who still have brain fog and have difficulty breathing. People who can't smell properly or taste properly, and still, even after that point, there are people with joint problems and so on and so forth. So this long COVID could basically afflict anybody. And people who think, okay, it's fine if I get the virus, I'm probably going to survive. That might be true. But will you end up with one of these sequelae? And who knows how long this can last for and what the combination is that you can have. I've talked about some of the other things that we're seeing. People with gangrene. Essentially, the virus caused blood clots in the system. And it actually leads to this clotting issue. Then the clots actually block the small blood vessels in the extremities and the fingers and toes. And what that leaves is that it cuts off the oxygen and you have this. And essentially what happens after that is that most of these individuals have to have these digits amputated. Again, this is one of the reasons to get vaccinated. You don't know if you're going to experience this type of sequelae overall. And one of the other things that we've seen, and I just pulled this off the web, just came out today, as you see the date, is that a lot of people now, and I think in the United States it's about 14 or so % of people who never had diabetes before, end up having COVID, and after the COVID is gone, 3 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later, they come back to the hospital because they're feeling sick. And guess what? They have diabetes. It could have been that they had diabetes and didn't know it, but even after they accounted for that, it turns out that COVID infects the pancreas where you make insulin. And it infects specifically these cells called the beta cells, and those are the cells that make insulin. It turns out that you're born with all the beta cells you're going to have. And when they're destroyed, they don't get replenished. And what is happening is that COVID is attacking and destroying these beta cells. And as a result of that, you're losing the amount of insulin that you're secreting. And so people turn up with this post-COVID diabetes that is affecting a significant amount of people. And they don't have the numbers yet to see how it disproportionately affect people of color. But for people of color who probably were already predisposed to having diabetes, this will readily push it over the edge. So, I wanted to point that out because this, again, is one of those things that we haven't really spent a lot of time on and thinking about. I'll play this little video.
Catching COVID, even if you're healthy and don't end up in the hospital, could still lead to other long-term symptoms. We've talked about the brain and long-term neurological issues, even for those who didn't experience serious illness. Now we're learning some people are being diagnosed with diabetes after they get COVID.
Number one, diabetes has been growing rapidly over the last decade. The last thing we need is another reason to increase the number of people with diabetes.
The American Diabetes Association thinks about 14% of hospitalized patients are developing newly diagnosed diabetes. Some of that may be people who didn't know they had diabetes before COVID, but they're also learning the virus attacks the cells that make insulin. Now, you're born with a certain amount of beta cells and never make any more. Once enough are gone, a person develops diabetes.
So that is definitely an issue that people have to look out for. And so then we now have to contend with what we've now started calling these variants of concern. And just to remind you, every time the virus make more of itself, because that's its goal, it doesn't want to hurt you, it doesn't want to kill you, it just wants to make more what we call progeny. It just wants to make more viruses. All this virus cares about is making more babies, and it will do it at the detriment of your life if it needs to do that. But essentially, every time it does that, every time it replicates itself, it makes mistakes. Most of the times, these mistakes are deleterious. It ends up in that new variant that is created actually dying out because it's not as strong as the original variant, and it gets outcompeted. But every now and then, you have a new variant that pops up that has capabilities that the original strain doesn't have. And some of these variants have become so readily transmitted and have proven to be more deadly. And those are the ones that they call the variants of concern. So the one that we have most now that's spreading around Springfield and the surroundings in the state of Massachusetts and basically across most of the US is the British variant, the B117 strain. There's also signs of the South African variant, the B1351. The P1 variant, we don't have as much of it. In the US, there was a small outbreak out on the Cape, I think, where somebody from Brazil had come back with the P1 variant. And then the variant that is now ravaging India is this B1617 variant. And you can see that there are a few others that were discovered in New York and in California. And essentially what the concern here is that these variants have four things that they do that's different. Number one, they have this increased period of infectiousness or contagiousness. In other words, they can have a longer incubation period, so to speak, is one of the things that they're seeing with them. The second thing is that you see increased viral shedding because somehow they're able to reproduce much better. And so the aerosols and droplets that the virus is transmitted through has more of them in it. And that's why it's more transmissible in part. The second reason why it's more transmissible is that a lot of them are more stable in the environment because of these mutations that they've had. In other words, they're able to sit on surfaces for longer. So if you touch those surfaces and touch your face, then you can actually get infected. And then the third reason, the fourth reason why some of these variants are so serious is because they bind more tightly to that receptor on our cells that they use to get in. And as a result of that, they're more efficiently transmitted and can cause much more significant problems overall. And so what you're seeing is that you're seeing a significant increase in them. And, once they take over, it becomes a big problem. I want to tell you briefly a little story about Manaus, Brazil. So in Manaus, in October of 2020, this was a city that had so many infections. In fact, it's estimated that 76% of the people in Manaus were infected with SARS-CoV-2. And so scientists look and thought, wow, this is a great place to look at how herd immunity is going to work for this virus. Because so many of them are infected, the infection rate should go down. And that happened. That happened. In fact, what they saw in Manaus was this reduction, this significant reduction in cases, to the place where hospitalizations and deaths were flat. None of them were increased. But then in end of January, February, they started seeing this significant increase, this precipitous turn for the worse in Manaus. And it was confusing. People who had been infected and were supposedly immune against the virus were now all of a sudden dying from the virus. In fact, what they saw was that it coincided right at the time when this P1 variant came around. And that is the problem with variants, that the antibodies that are made against the original infection did not protect these patients, these people, from getting infected with this P1 strain. And let me show you what they're doing in Manaus, and they're just getting on the other side of this. What you're seeing here is them using bulldozers and clearing forest areas so that they can make cemeteries. All of these are graves that you're seeing there. See close up? These are people, many of whom had already gotten the original strain of the virus. That is why we say get the vaccine. Because you see, you can't depend on your natural immunity to protect you, because the strain that you were exposed to, these new variants, are different enough that they're able to escape those antibodies. And many times, the amount of antibodies that are made against a natural infection is way below what you're getting with the vaccines. The vaccines are tremendously boosting your immune system so that you can actually get good protection. And that is why all of these vaccines now have proven to help against the variants. All of the variants to varying degrees. To the P1 variant, they work 80-something%. B117 variant, 90-something%. Even the variant that they're seeing in India now, there is evidence to show that the vaccines, the current, especially mRNA vaccines, work against it. So one of the things that people say to me, Reverend, is if I am a believing Christian, and God has made me with a good immune system, why do I need to take a vaccine? And I hear this from Christian evangelicals all the time. And they said, I'm not taking a vaccine because I believe my faith tells me that God made me with a good, strong immune system, and I'm going to take that. And my response to that is, you say that because you don't really understand the complexity of the immune system. Your immune system has two arms, the innate and the adaptive system. The innate system is there just because you're a human being and because it's built in. The macrophages, even your skin, the fact that your skin protects you from stuff getting in can be considered a part of your innate immune response. In other words, immediately as a pathogen comes in, it holds it down. And it is its job to alert the rest of innate cells that say, hey, we have something here. So I like to see this as the 911 system. for your immune system. When you call 911, what you get is you get your local fire department and your police, they respond. The adaptive immune response comes later. In fact, that's why you wait 2 weeks to know that you're fully immune, because it turns out that it peaks 2 weeks later, right? This is important. This is the way we're made. This is the way we're created. This is how the system works. If the innate system works well, it will hold the viral load down to a level that is manageable, so that when the adaptive arm kicks in, it is able to control it. And you see this curve go down the way you're seeing it here. Now, the issue comes when you have something like COVID. And what COVID does is that it knocks out part of the innate system, and part of the messaging system. It knocks it out. And so when people say, oh, didn't God create me with my immune system to work properly? What you're not realizing is that you don't want the adaptive immune system to kick in unless you absolutely have to. We get disease only when our immune systems are overwhelmed. And that means both arms. Why? Because the adaptive system, which is what makes the antibodies that protect us against something like COVID, is messy. It's a huge inflammation. In other words, it's like you now picking up the phone and you say, the local police can't manage this. The fire department can't manage this. SWAT can't manage this. I'm calling the Pentagon. Number one, the Pentagon to deploy troops is going to take time to build up, right? You don't deploy troops right away. Number two, when they come in your neighborhood, they're going to trample on your flower garden. They're going to park their tanks on your driveway. They're going to destroy your roads, because that is the nature of this kind of warfare. When you have a war and the military is done dropping their smart bombs and shooting up, they have to rebuild. Look at what is happening in Israel now. That is what happens when the army comes in. It's messy, it's dangerous. It does accomplish its purpose. But when it's done, there's a lot of cleanup to be had. And that is why the adaptive immune system does not kick in simultaneously with your innate immune system. It's 1 and 2 week delay before the next one fully comes in. Now, look at what this says. It doesn't matter if you're eating well. It doesn't matter how healthy you are. You cannot delay this initial, what we call the primary immune response for that 2 weeks. But look at what happens when you get the same thing again, the same virus again, or if you get the vaccine, the virus comes in. What took 2 weeks now take 2 days to kick in. That is why vaccines work. We've always been talking about how vaccines work. This is the why vaccines work. Scientists figured out that there are certain pathogens like COVID that will kill you before that 2 week period comes. So your immune system needs a prime. It needs to be told. So essentially what a vaccine does is like sending an email and alerting the immune system, or you tricking the immune system into thinking that it is under attack with all of these proteins coming from the vaccine. And so it deploys its adaptive immune system. And within 2 weeks, you have this huge peak. You have lots of antibodies. But in the second response, and for people who get the second dose for the 2-dose vaccines, this is actually what is happening. And that is why it's the second day after you get it, the second dose, that's when you probably feel the most significant chills and fever and stuff like that. Because in that period of time, not only are you having a stronger response, a shorter response, but you're having a stronger response. You have that many more circulating antibodies there to protect you. So this is the why, and it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how healthy you are. It doesn't matter how faithful you are. It doesn't matter what sort of diet you're having. You could have been vegetarian from birth. You cannot shorten that 2 week period. It is just the way you were made to protect you. But look at COVID. So essentially what you do is that now when these antibodies are made and they're in these high numbers, they bind to the spike proteins on the virus and prevent these spike proteins from binding over here onto these human cells. And so you get protected. That's how it works. With COVID, when COVID infects you, if you're going to have a mild disease, that happens within 4 or 5 days. That mild disease is manifesting off, and if it's going to go away, so this is the viral load, is the amount of viruses floating around the blood. If you're going to get a severe disease, that happens within 10 days. That is before the 14 days of protection. So that is why you get a vaccine, because by the time your adaptive immune system and your antibody levels are at peak to protect you, you could already be in the ICU on a ventilator. That is why you get a vaccine against something like the mumps, measles, rubella, COVID, because they destroy you in a shorter period of time than you can possibly get around it. And so what we have is that we have to have a Swiss cheese kind of approach to COVID, right? Where essentially the physical distancing and staying away if you're not vaccinated, washing your hands carefully, limiting your involvement in crowded areas, being in rooms that are well ventilated or staying outside as much as possible, then quarantining and isolating yourself if you're exposed, and then getting the vaccine. No one of these is 100%, but you put them all together and what you have is protection from the virus, wearing your mask, doing all of those things that is necessary. And eventually, what we expect to reach to is herd immunity. And essentially, if you have 5% of people vaccinated, look at what is happening. You see how quickly they get taken over by the virus. Even at 30%, you still have a significant proportion. So what you need is enough people, over 70% of people, 75% of people being vaccinated to protect you against a regular strain of the virus. Now, if you have a variant, here's a variant that is more infectious. And with a variant that's even more infectious, even your 75% protected might not be as good, because some of these people who got vaccinated might still get infected if the variant is more contagious and if the variant is able to get through the vaccine firewall that you have. But eventually what you want is to reach to a place like that we call herd immunity. And I was saying, Representative Williams today, it's like these modern forest planting where they actually have these fire breaks. Right? They don't keep planting trees nonstop. They plant trees and they leave these wide open areas that they clear on a regular basis. So if you have a fire in this quadrant, it will devour this entire area, but it won't touch these areas over here. Right? That's how you make sustainable modern forest areas. And that's essentially what herd immunity is. It gives you that break. For every person who's vaccinated, they become this break between the virus and somebody who is susceptible. And I'll stop there just in case you might have any questions that I can share. But I just thought I would update you with these new things.
We only have about 3 minutes. I hate to tell you, because Steve's got to get off today. We have about 3 minutes. So what we're going to have to do, I'm going to talk with Bishop Morgan. Hope we can do a round 2 next week on our own. So I don't know how much. I think we got 3 minutes before he has to log off. So we got these graduations going now. Bishop?
There was Lamont, is he on here? There was a question he had. Well,
here, I'm still here. I'm not going away.
You said, what about people who was not got their second vaccine?
Yeah. Well, one of my questions was some folks with the one thing with the mask, and I just want to see how mindful we can be, or what can we do, because you're going now and everything is opening up, and I understand that. So I know everybody should keep their mask on, but I'm hearing a lot of things open up and people are dropping the mask now. And that is a concern, and how we focus on it. That's one thing. And also what I did put out, if we can get flyers in the community. I noticed on the website, and I was just typing it in, the city website, but even though people may not, if we can get a weekly flyer of all the places doing testing, second and first doses, and then there's a lot of people that I'm hearing that's haven't got their second dose. So I know it's open. I just like to know, because people had asked me, I just told them to go where a site may be open, whether it's Eastfield Mall, et cetera. So that's just some of the questions and something I'm hearing from the community.
Well, Lamar, you heard what Helen said,
Yeah.
Commissioner Colton said about the mask. She's going to still push it.
Yeah.
The second shot, you should have got a card to go back to wherever you got it. When you get your first shot, they give you a place to get your second shot.
Yeah.
If they haven't got the second shot, they can go to H&M, they can go to Eastfield Mall. We're getting ready. We're going to put some flyers, get some information to the street. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, it would help so that some of the community organizations in other places around the city have them, because everybody don't go to the city website. I mean,
Right.
a lot of us will go, but for those that may not pick up or go into their phone and know how to use it, a flyer is just a good way of putting something out there with a list of places where you can go bi-weekly if anything changes. That's all I was asking.
Okay. Yeah,
We have time for one question.
One question. This is the last one.
Okay, this question, I guess we can save for the next presentation, but I wanted just some clarity on the viral load slide. It sounded so interesting, but I couldn't write it down fast enough. And maybe the next time you can explain that again in terms of how that works. And the second part of that is something that's germane to Massachusetts. And I think I heard you say that you need 75% of the people vaccinated in order to be protected in herd immunity. But if I'm not mistaken, I heard that we're only 35 or 33% protected in Massachusetts. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but how could that be construed in that we're ready for the mask mandate to be released?
Actually, I don't remember the exact number, but Massachusetts is well beyond 30%.
40, I think, Doctor, I think we're 43%.
Yeah.
43, but if it's 75% that's needed, so I just wondered what the thinking for rationale might be behind that.
75% is a low estimate. Most people think it's over 80% of people will need to get their first shot completely. And so I don't think anybody at this stage is saying that you're opening up because the vast majority of people are vaccinated. What is happening is a combination of things. The number of cases have gone down significantly. A significant number of people have been vaccinated. And we're coming to the summer months where people are spending more time outside. So with those combinations, we expect to have a significant drop in the virus. But it's one of those things that you're learning the game as you're going. You know, and we'll have to figure it out as we go along. And if there needs to be changes in that, then I suspect that will happen as well.
Okay.
Dr. Williams, the Massachusetts rate is 43.8% right now. City of Springfield is 25.4%, but Massachusetts is totally fully vaccinated, 43.8%.
Yeah.
Okay, that's considered totally vaccinated, 43%.
That's
Is that
correct.
what you're saying?
43.8% of Massachusetts residents are fully vaccinated as compared to 25.4% of Springfield residents.
That's
Okay.
the first and second shot, right?
That's right, fully vaccinated, has had 2 doses of the vaccine.
Okay, great, thank you.
I know it's 43 something. I wasn't sure, but
0.8.
come on, Commissioner.
We've got it's 5 o'clock. I hate to say it, it's 5 o'clock. We're gonna have to go.
Yeah, this is too interesting, but we'll.
So maybe we
pick
can
it
do
up.
our own thing next week, Bishop.
Okay.
What do you mean our own thing, but in terms
Either
of
next week or in 2 weeks.
with Dr. Webley, is that what you mean, rather than going through
We'll do it ourselves.
a second? Okay, second host. Yeah, this is very interesting. It's like very informative and very helpful.
Okay, 5 o'clock. We're on Steve's time.
Yep. So listen, thank you so much, Dr. Webley. You have given us once again a wealth of information and allows us to be concerned. I'm not going to say scared, but definitely concerned, hopefully enough that the people that we talk to will be more informed and will act and do something. So more of us than just the 25% that are here in Springfield will become fully vaccinated so we can attain herd immunity.
Yes.
But thank you so much, everyone, for being a part today. I appreciate you. Thank you, our co-chair, Ms. Doris Harris. We want to, I'll send out an email with the flyer and a date for when our next meeting will be. So right now we are on Steve's time, and I want to get off of his foot.